to achieve a nice brunette like Emily's here, we would use actually one of my favourite things. They would have had rotted leeches in red wine, left for 40 days, so it was quite specific of how long they would leave it. That would then be heated up and then combed through with a bone comb as well, and then left to take.
Today I'm at Chedworth Roman Villa in Gloucestershire, one of the most impressive Roman villas ever discovered in Britain. Chedworth is famous for its incredible mosaics, its elaborate bathhouses, and even the snails that live here. But today I'm here for a very different reason. We're going to be recreating a look that a wealthy woman who lived right here at the villa would have worn in the early 4th century, at the golden age of Roman Britain. Hi Amy, lovely to meet you.
Hi Rachel.
And today you're going to be doing a Roman look on our lovely model Emily. So perhaps can you talk me through what you're going to be doing to Emily today?
Of course, we're going to start off with a beautiful Roman hairstyle. We are going to be putting it up with lots of intricate braids, because any respectable Roman women always wore their hair up. So we're going to do a little bit of that. Then we're going to move on to the makeup with a nice bold blue eyeshadow, heavy black eyeliner, and nice rosy cheeks. And then we'll be dressing as a nice Roman lady to finish off.
Before we get started, I can't help but notice this fantastic array of instruments we've got on this table. Perhaps you talk me through a couple of them.
Of course. Well, my favourite one for makeup is the cosmetic grinder. Now, these were actually found at Vindolanda as well, indicating the presence of women on campaign. You would hold that over a lamp, just like that, over the flame, collect the soot, grind it up, and that was your eyeliner applicator as well.
That's incredible. It looks very precise, actually.
It was very precise. It gives the beautiful winged eyeliner as well. Then we're going to move on to hair, and we're going to put some nice brass pins in the hair as well, with a nice blue to match the eyeshadow, just to hold all the hair in place.
Well, let's get cracking with the hair then.
Okay, let's do it. So we're going to start off on 2 side pieces, and we're going to do some nice braids. We are in Britain, of course. We have no Flavian crazy hairstyles here. We like to have a little bit of Celtic tradition and have some braids. So that's what we're going to do.
So the women here, they took inspiration from the local cultures.
Absolutely. It was a real mix and blends of cultures here. And a braid, of course, can stay in for weeks if you want it to.
I mean, that's an interesting point in itself, because you told me before that women in Roman times wouldn't necessarily be washing their hair with the same frequency as us.
No, that's far too much effort. No, we're going to have it in for potentially weeks, because we will be eventually sewing the hair in together as well, so it will stay put.
So Emily has lovely brunette hair. And interestingly, you have red hair and I have blonde hair. And in the Roman period, people loved to experiment with hair colour as much as we did today. How would they change their hair colour?
So to achieve a nice brunette like Emily's here, we would use actually one of my favourite things. They would have had rotted leeches in red wine, left for 40 days, so it was quite specific of how long they would leave it. That would then be heated up and then combed through with a bone comb as well, and then left to take. Now, to get lovely blonde hair like yours, we would have a little bit of vinegar, pigeon feces, and we would mix that all together, and that would help to bleach the hair. How nice a hue it would have been, I'm not entirely convinced.
I won't be trying that one anytime.
Blonde hair wasn't quite as fashionable for the Romans either. It was more about the sort of the darker hairs. But occasionally the red hair was in fashion as well, especially over here, because the natives did tend to have more of a red hue to them. You would use a bit of henna and sparrow apple to create a nice red colour as well.
That seems much nicer than the methods for brunette and blonde hair.
Slightly nicer, yes. I know, that's why I like it.
So this look we're creating today is looking very much like we're doing an updo.
We are indeed, yes. Yes, it was much more respectable to have your hair up.
That's interesting. So who would have worn their hair down?
The younger women, unmarried women as well. So it was a real sort of status to have your hair down. Meant you were available and looking for a husband.
Ah, interesting. So the look we're going for on Emily, she's very much a married woman, a respectable woman in her community. Makes sense. So we've got extensions, we've got wigs, we've got weaves today. People love adding hair pieces, especially celebrities. Did they do this in Roman times?
They did. Now, there's a very famous empress, Julia Domna, who went on campaign with her husband. Now, to avoid getting lice and nits, she shaved her head and she wore a wig anytime she was out in public. So it just kept her a little bit more hygienic as well.
Amazing. And people also added hair pieces to their own hair, didn't they?
They did. The bigger, the better, and the bolder the hairdo. And lots of hair pieces, lots of fake hair, lots of hair from slaves and prisoners. They would all have their head shaved and hair donated to the wealthy woman. Women didn't cut their hair. They always kept it long. It was a real sort of status. If you had long hair, you were wealthy and well looked after. You could certainly do more with it as well. Of course, having short hair was very masculine. We weren't about that in the Roman times. So we had to be as feminine as possible, and that meant very long hair.
And would you have been doing your hair yourself like we do today?
Again, depending on your status, if you weren't that wealthy, you would do your own hair. But if you were wealthy and of elite status, you would have someone like me to do your hair. My role is ornatrix. It literally means hairdresser. And I would be there to do your hair every single week, depending on how often you changed your hair. But it would be my job to be up to date with the new styles, anything that came over from Rome. It would be my job to then promote those hairstyles. I'd have to have them in myself. So then I made my lady look good as well.
Oh, wow. And I heard that actually hairstyles were a real fashion in the Roman Empire because they would see it on a coin and they'd be like, I want that hairstyle.
They would. It was all down to the empress as well. So she was the leading lady. If she had good hair, everyone else wanted it too. There we go. Right, we're now going to sew it into place.
And how frequently would people wash their hair back in Rome and Britain?
Not very often at all. It was a bit of a hassle to wash your hair. So hair went up very, very easily. I have not got that luxury because Emily has lovely clean hair. So I am using a modern staple of a bobby pin to help keep things in place. But I am then finishing off with a traditional sewing in of the hair, and that would have kept it in place for much longer. Now this could have been in for anything up to a month, depending on how good the style was.
Wow. And that's amazing. So actually not washing their hair enabled them to keep these hairstyles in for such a long period of time.
It did, yes. Yeah, there was no hairstyles, there was no hair gel or hairspray to keep it in.
The grease did the job.
It did.
So talk me through the makeup look you're doing on Emily.
So we're going to introduce a lovely blue eyeshadow, which might seem a little bit out there, but Roman women were indeed a little bit out there with their makeup. It was all about big, bold and bright coloured eye makeup.
So this is quite a vibrant colour. How did they do this in Roman times? How did they make such vibrant colours?
It is quite literally crushed up stone. So the blue, for example, is azurite. And because it's kind of got crystals, it does tend to give a nice sort of shimmery colour as well. Green was also a big favourite for eyeshadow. Just close your eyes for me. And that was done by malachite, again, just a crushed mineral. And then you'd have someone to do that for you. They'd give it a good crush until it's sort of a powder form. Not too different to how we have eyeshadow today.
And would these eyeshadows have been quite expensive?
They would have been, because especially if you're in Britain, you're not going to come across these kind of minerals sort of freely. So they would have been imported into Britain. Again, shows you have to have a lot of money to have this. Or your husband had to have a lot of money to be able to have these things brought over for your wife. Actually, you need to keep your wife happy.
What about the instrument you're using to apply the eyeshadow?
Very, very basic. They would have used their hands mostly to do stuff, but they would have also had some sort of utensils. But these are very much sort of homemade, very, very simple and basic. Just a nice sturdy twig. We're in the countryside, so we've got plenty of them. A little bit of sponge covered by muslin cloth, and that's your eyeshadow brush.
I know what I'm doing next time I can't find my makeup bag.
There we go. So what I've done here again, we would have held this over a flame that would have collected some soot. Would have used a lovely bit of animal fat just to mix it up. I'm a little bit out of that today, so we're just going to go straight on.
And how do we know what makeup styles Roman women would have been wearing? We don't have any photos of them.
There are no photos and no paintings either, apart from frescoes, which you would have had on the walls of sort of really expensive houses and elite families. And they would have had their pictures painted that way. So you kind of get a better idea of how they would have looked. Again, it's very exaggerated as the paintings were, but I'm sure it can't have been too far off the truth.
So what about other makeup types? So would they have used foundation? Like today, lots of people love to have a tan. Would that have been the case?
No. So to have a tan meant you worked outdoors, and that's a big no-no. If you've lots of money, you are meant to be pale, and the paler the better. If you had a tan, you were a labourer in the fields, then you were poor. So no, we strive to stay as pale as possible. If you went out, you obviously always had a parasol over you to stop you from catching the sun. And you'd use a lovely concoction of lead, arsenic, crocodile dung was a good one to help keep the skin nice and clear and pale as well. Again, you'd have that imported over here because we're a little lacking on crocodiles over here. And snails as well. So we've got plenty of those here as well, but they used to boil down the snail shells, heat them up until they became ash. And that was really, really great for blemishes as well. So we certainly don't want any of those. So while you would have wanted to look lovely and pale and wealthy, you wanted to look healthy at the same time. So you would have had a nice bit of rouge on the cheeks. Now this is a little mixture of animal fat and rose petals.
Lovely. So we're adding a little bit of colour back in, but not too much. Not so much that it implies that we're tanned and working in the field.
No, we can't have that.
One thing we're not doing today, but I'm really curious about, are nails. Would they have painted their nails?
They would, yes. Sort of more the red, the classic red nail has never gone out of fashion. Use the dregs of red wine once it's sort of settled at the bottom, using that, and that would have stained the nails a nice bright red.
I'm finding today that there's a lot of uses for red wine. We can use it for hair dye, we can use it for nail care, lots of uses.
There's a lot of recycling going on as well. We don't kind of want to get rid of anything. We use it all. Just finish off. Then there's a little bit of face powder, some lovely white lead.
And there's the final look. Now, would Emily have known what she looked like? Would she have had a mirror to admire herself?
She would have done, yes. It would have been a little bit distorted because there was no sort of glass on a mirror. It would have been very highly shined brass. But today, I do, in fact, have a modern mirror. They did also have bigger mirrors as well. Sort of, it would have taken about 2 servants to hold back. Again, slightly distorted because the reflection wouldn't have been great.
So we've done Emily's hair, we've done her makeup, she's looking amazing. And now it's time to get her ready. What would she have been wearing?
Sort of on a traditional day, on a slightly colder day, we would have had an under tunic underneath, always made out of linen or wool because it helps sort of keeps the body sweat away from the body, keeps you smelling a little bit sweeter. Then you would have a stola, which is sort of similar to what I'm wearing, and it will be a gap sleeve tunic as well, because it was far more fashionable and you could adorn it much more as well. We're then going to have an underskirt as well, because again, you are a proper lady, so you need a few more layers. And then to top it off, we're going to have a palla, because you must not leave the house without a palla. Palla is a very long shawl that you can sort of keep your hair covered when you're out and about, but it also helps to keep the sun off as well.
And here she is.
Just have a few final touches. A little bit of turquoise necklace. And of course, you must have your palla.
So there we have it, an authentic Roman look that you can recreate at home, but you might want to leave off the leeches, pigeon poo or arsenic.